Welcome back to another explainer. Okay, today we're doing something specifically for all of you Edexcel GCSE Psychology students out there. We're jumping straight into a highly focused, memory-boosting revision session on evaluating Siffre's classic 1975 study. You know, the famous 6 months alone in a freezing cave experiment. We're going to make sure you have the ultimate framework to literally ace the specific evaluation and lock down those top marks.
Picture this scenario. You're sitting right there in the exam hall. The clock is ticking down. You're staring at a massive high-mark essay question asking you to evaluate Siffre's 1975 cave study. How on earth do you remember all the necessary evaluation points when you're under that much intense pressure? It's the ultimate problem, right? You need a reliable, structured system that makes sure you don't blank out so you can easily recall the specific psychological details when it matters most.
Okay, let's dive into this. On our agenda today, we're starting with the broader framework for evaluating Siffre's 1975 study before breaking it down step by step into generalizability, reliability, application, validity, and ethics.
Section 1. Evaluating Siffre 1975.
G, A, V, E. This single 5-letter word is the absolute key to unlocking your evaluation. When the pressure is on in the exam room, this framework is going to pull you through and structure your whole essay. We call it the GRAVE framework, and it's basically the perfect skeleton to hang your psychological knowledge on. Let's break it down letter by letter.
We're starting right at the top with the letter G. Before we can dive into the nitty-gritty of the data, we have to address the very first hurdle of any case study, which is understanding if it actually applies to the wider public.
Section 2. Generalizability. So the crucial point is that generalizability is your G component. When evaluating Siffre's 1975 study, you have to ask yourself, can the findings from this study be generalized to the rest of the target population? And for Siffre, the generalizability is incredibly low. Why? Well, because this was a case study of literally a single individual. One 33-year-old male French cave explorer. His physiology, his physical fitness, his mental resilience, they're all highly unusual. We absolutely have to critically question whether we can really apply the circadian rhythms of one exceptional guy to the wider, diverse population. You just can't safely assume everyone's biological clock would react the exact same way.
All right, moving right along to the letter R. While generalizability might be a glaring weakness for this case study, we also must look at how robust the actual mechanics of the experiment were.
Section 3. Reliability. When you write down R in your exam margin, remember it stands entirely for reliability. You're asking yourself about consistency. If we ran this isolation study again, would we get the exact same results? Honestly, Siffre's reliability is kind of a mixed bag. On one hand, trying to replicate a 6-month underground cave isolation is practically impossible, not to mention incredibly expensive, which significantly lowers its external reliability. But on the flip side, Siffre used highly controlled, objective, quantitative measures the whole time he was down there. He had regular telephone check-ins, blood pressure monitors, and strict memory tests. That rigorous methodology significantly increases the reliability of his biological data. And that brings us to A. Once we have that reliable biological data, we really need to know what to actually do with it in the real world.
Section 4. Application.
And this brilliantly illustrates our A component. Application prompts you to tell the examiner how the findings from the study can be applied to real-world situations. This is a massive strength for Siffre. By demonstrating that the human free-running circadian rhythm stretches to around 25 hours when stripped of natural daylight, we gain some absolutely crucial, actionable knowledge. This exact finding has been instrumental in managing shift workers' schedules to prevent industrial accidents. It's helped space agencies manage astronauts' sleep cycles up in orbit, and it's heavily informed the development of treatments for extreme jet lag. The real-world utility here is undeniable.
Next up is the letter V. Now, despite those incredible real-world applications, we still have to look closely at whether Siffre's cave environment was truly isolating him from all time cues like he intended.
Section 5. Validity. Never forget that the V strictly denotes validity. This is your cue to question if the study was actually measuring what it claimed to measure. Siffre aimed to study internal biological clocks completely free from external cues. But there is a massive validity issue here, and it all comes down to his artificial lamp. Siffre turned his lamp on when he woke up and off when he went to sleep. He didn't realize it at the time, but this artificial light acted as an exogenous Zeitgeber, basically an external cue that actually resets the biological clock. This unwitting mistake heavily compromised the internal validity of his isolation. Furthermore, the ecological validity was incredibly low. I mean, a dark, freezing cave is hardly a natural environment for everyday human life, right?
Which brings us to our final letter, E. Beyond the methodological flaws and the scientific breakthroughs, we must examine the actual human cost of the experiment.
Section 6. Ethics.
Ethics completely secures the final piece of our puzzle. You always have to consider the psychological and physical toll on the participant, and Siffre's 1975 study is highly debatable on this front. Spending 6 months in complete isolation caused him severe psychological distress. He experienced intense bouts of depression, his memory significantly deteriorated, and he even documented having suicidal thoughts. While it's true he gave his own consent to be there, evaluating the ethics requires you to really discuss that complex balance. Was the extreme personal cost to Siffre worth the monumental benefit his findings brought to scientific knowledge?
Okay, so bringing the GRAVE framework all together for your Siffre evaluation. Generalizability, severely limited by a sample size of 1. Reliability, mixed due to robust quantitative measures but poor overall replicability. Application, extremely high for shift workers and astronauts. Validity, heavily compromised by that artificial lamp acting as a time cue. And ethics, widely debated due to the extreme psychological distress Siffre endured. I highly recommend treating this as a mental screenshot moment. If you can recreate this exact breakdown in your mind's eye during your exam, you will effortlessly write 5 distinct, high-quality paragraphs.
So, what does this all mean for you? How will you apply GRAVE to your next psychology paper? Don't just passively watch this explainer. Take this structured framework straight into your active revision notes right now. Remember, the GRAVE acronym is just the skeleton. It's the specific psychological details and critical points we just discussed that will actually secure your top marks. You've got the tools, now go out there and use them. Thanks for learning with me today.